I found the letter on the second night of our honeymoon, sewn into the lining of the suitcase my new husband had given me for the trip. The stitching along the inside pocket had come loose at one corner, and under it there was an envelope, and on the envelope, in handwriting I had only ever seen on the backs of old photographs, 5 words. For the woman he marries next. His first wife had been dead for 9 years. She had written to me anyway. I read it sitting on the bathroom floor of the hotel while he slept, and by the second page my hands were steady, which frightened me more than shaking would have. Because the letter wasn't a goodbye. It was a schedule. And everything on it had already started coming true. I met him at a dinner party 2 years before, seated on his left, warned in advance by the hostess that he was the sweetest man and so brave. A widower. 9 years alone. He told the story of his first wife the way you'd hold up something made of glass, carefully, briefly, and then away it went, back into its case. She had been fragile, he said. Delicate health, delicate nerves. He had done everything for her, and it still hadn't been enough, and he didn't like to talk about it. Everyone at that table looked at him with such warmth. I did too. I was 51. I had a paid-off apartment, a good job, a quiet life I'd built myself after my own divorce, and a suspicion of charming men that I believed, wrongly, made me safe. He never rushed me. That was the thing I mistook for respect. He moved slowly, the way you move around a deer you don't want to spook. It would take me 2 years and 1 envelope to understand that slow is not the same as gentle. When he proposed, he cried. When I said yes, he gave me pearl earrings and said they had been his grandmother's. Remember the earrings? The letter did. He gave me the suitcase the week before the wedding. Good leather, older than our whole relationship, the kind of thing they don't make anymore. It's too good to waste sitting in the attic, he said. Take it. She'd have liked that. And I remember being moved by it, a man so healed, so ready, that his first wife's suitcase could become his second wife's honeymoon bag. I told my sister it was beautiful. My sister said it was strange. We were both right. The corner of the lining had been restitched by hand. I know that now, because the person who did it wanted it found by fingers, not by eyes. You'd never see it. You'd only catch it the way I caught it, feeling around for a phone charger at midnight in a hotel room. The first line of the letter said, "If you found this, he gave you my suitcase. He told you it was too good to waste." That's how I knew where to leave this. Some things about him you can set a clock by. I read that line 4 times. He was asleep 10 feet away, breathing slow and even, a man without one bad dream to his name. That was the moment the room went cold for me. Not haunted cold. Worse. Familiar cold. She wrote it in the last winter of her life, when the illness had taken the garden and the driving and was starting on her handwriting. 4 pages anyway. She apologized for the penmanship and for nothing else. She wrote, "He is not violent and he is not stupid, and if you're reading this you already love him, so I won't wasting telling you what he isn't. Here is what he is. He is patient. It will feel like being treasured. It is inventory." She wrote, "Within the first month of marriage he will give you the pearl earrings. He will say they were his grandmother's." I found the receipt from the pawn shop. The pearls are nobody's grandmother. They're a test. If you wear the story without checking it, the rest can begin. I was wearing them when I read that. I took them off very quietly on the bathroom tile, the way you take off something with a pulse. She wrote, "By the first Christmas he will suggest you stop working. He will call it taking a breath." My bookshop became our bookshop became his decision to sell it. He'll tell you I was too fragile to work. I was fragile the way a paid-off building is fragile, right up until it's signed over. And then the line I have never managed to forget. He will tell everyone you are unstable, later, when you start to see it. He told them that about me. The word he'll use is fragile. Count how many times you've already heard it. I counted. Sitting on that floor, on my honeymoon, I counted 11. I want to be honest about the next part. because the internet always thinks the smart thing is to run that same night, barefoot, dramatic. I didn't run. I checked. I am an auditor's daughter. I don't believe in ghosts, and I didn't believe a dead woman automatically told the truth about a living man. Grief writes strange letters, and illness writes stranger ones. So I gave the letter a fair trial. Quietly. The pawn shop was real. Still in business, 40 minutes from his house, and pearls that age carry paperwork. Grandmother, none. The bookshop was real too, sold the year before she died. His signature alone on the closing documents, power of attorney dated 2 months into her diagnosis. Every business record with both their names on it ended with only his. The letter had a last page. Not accusations, instructions. The name of a lawyer she trusted. The one bank in town where she'd kept an account he never found. And a sentence that told me she had been an auditor's daughter of some kind herself. Do not confront him with feelings. Confront him with paper, or not at all. Feelings he can perform against. Paper just sits there. For 3 weeks I was a perfect new wife with a photocopy of everything in a safe deposit box. He noticed nothing. Why would he? Everything about me was in its place. He was the one who'd taught the household that quiet meant content. The drop of water that breaks the stone came on an ordinary Tuesday, over roast chicken, 6 weeks after the wedding. He topped up my wine and said the market was strange, and it made him nervous, my apartment just sitting there with all that value locked up in it. Better to sell, he said. Put it into the house. Into us. And then he smiled, and reached across the table for my hand, and said it. So we're not divided. Page 3 of the letter. Word for word. When he comes for the apartment, the sentence will be, so we're not divided. He rehearses. The words worked once, so the words stay. 9 years from now some other woman will hear that sentence, in that voice, and think it's love. Tell her it's a key turning. I looked at my husband holding my hand across the chicken, and I heard a woman 9 years dead saying it in unison with him, and I promise you the goosebumps on my arms were not fear. They were recognition. The oldest kind of women's religion there is, one of us leaving a note for the next one in the lining. I said the appointment with the notary sounded sensible. I said Friday was fine. He'd already booked it, of course, before he asked me. The letter had told me he would, and by then the letter and I were finishing each other's sentences. Friday morning I didn't go to the notary. I sat at his kitchen table with 4 pages laid out flat, and when he came down in the good suit, jangling his keys, I read to him. Out loud. Slowly. His grandmother's pearls that had no grandmother. Taking a breath by Christmas. The bookshop that became a signature. So we're not divided. I read him 9 years of his own script in his first wife's handwriting, and I watched the performance die in his face one muscle at a time. He tried charm first. It always starts with charm, the sad smile, the sweetheart, she was ill, you know she was ill. Then he tried grief, which had worked on entire dinner parties. And when I didn't move, he arrived where the letter said he would, right on time, like everything else about him. People warned me, he said, cold now, keys quiet in his fist. That you were, brittle. Unstable. I defended you. 11 times before the honeymoon. Once more at the kitchen table. She'd told me to count, so I did, out loud, that last one. 12, I said. He asked what I was talking about. Nothing, I said, and folded the pages. Your first wife and I keep the books now. There is one more scene, and it isn't mine, so I'll tell it the way it was given to me. Before I left town I brought the letter to his sister, the one member of that family who'd hugged me at the wedding like she meant it, the one who'd loved the first wife and gone along, all those years, with the fragile story, because it was easier than the alternative. She read all 4 pages standing at her front door. I watched the color go out of her face the way water goes out of a sink, slow, then all at once. When she got to the pearls she made a small sound. When she got to, so we're not divided, She sat down on her own doorstep with her coat still on. She tried to tell me, she said finally. 15 years ago. She said something wasn't right with the accounts, and I told her marriage takes work. She looked up at me, and her eyes were the eyes of a woman doing 15 years of arithmetic all at once. I told a drowning woman that water takes getting used to. I left her the copy. What she did with it is why this story has an ending. A year later, when he was engaged again, a colleague's aunt this time, another woman with a paid-off life. It wasn't me who made the phone call. It was his sister. Some debts get paid by the witness, not the victim. Those count double. The marriage was annulled before the pearls would have needed restringing. My apartment is still mine. My savings never met his. However, that annulment reads in his version, and I'm sure I'm brittle in it, I'm sure I'm unstable. The paper just sits there, like she promised. Nothing of mine has his name on it. That is the whole scoreboard, and it reads, 2 wives, nothing lost twice. People ask if I hate him. Honestly, he's grown small in my memory, a man who runs the same play until the day the defense finally reads it. The person who grew larger is her. A woman in her last winter, hands failing, who spent what strength she had left sewing a warning into a suitcase for someone she would never meet. Who had no exit left of her own, so she built one for me. The suitcase lives in my hallway closet now. The letter is back in the lining, all 5 pages. The 5th one is mine. It's addressed the same way hers was, because men like him don't stop, and lightning strikes wherever the rod is standing, for the woman he marries next. Somebody left a door unlocked for me and never got to walk through it herself. The least I could do was leave it unlocked behind me. Has anyone ever left you a warning, a note, a phone call, a look at a wedding, that you only understood later? Tell me below. I read every story here. The best ones become episodes.